Alright, so this is just going to be a review of the, let's see, M3 iPad Air. I got this iPad Air, and I've been using it for about 2 months now, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts. So firstly, and I'm going to put pictures for all of these. Firstly, the thickness. Now, the iPad Air, the Air implies that it'll be very thin. It is super, super thin. However, I also have the M4 iPad Pro, and as you can see, the Air is thicker than the Pro. Like, what? Why would they do that? So, that's my first, complaint. Like, the name implies that it'll be the thinnest one, but no, Apple's like, the Pro's gonna be thinner and better. Okay, so secondly, the iPad has a 60 hertz refresh rate. In 2025, 120 hertz minimum. You know what I'm saying? So, if you want the 120 hertz and a tablet, the Pro's your only option. Or just get an Android tablet. But here's the problem. Nobody makes Android tablet apps. Like, they don't work well on Android tablets. Like, for example, OnePlus released their new tablet. I think Marcus Brownlee did a review on it. I watched it. And he just basically talked about how nobody makes the Android apps. And so, like, you have to get an iPad, even if it's less powerful. But with Apple software, you're not going to really notice that unless you're doing one of these things. First of all, if you're doing, like, let's say, if you're playing Fortnite. Now, if you don't know, Fortnite is like the biggest game on iPad. I say biggest as in heaviest to run. It says 510 megabytes, but once you download the full game, it's like 30 gigabytes. On my iPad, I used to have it, but it takes like 30 gigabytes. Look at it. I only have 128 gigs of storage. Like, it takes up 1/4 of the whole storage, so that's why I deleted. So the Fortnite, I run it on high graphics, and I got about 40 FPS. This is the M3 chip. This is supposed to be a very new chip released last year. And 40 FPS on the iPad, I was expecting 60 or above, but hey, that's what you get. But if you play just normal mobile games, like over here I have games like, let's say, Alto's Odyssey. I have Apple Arcade, by the way. Actually, a decent subscription. I am using the free trial on multiple accounts, so that's how I got it. These games, you can see, just running smoothly. These all run very smoothly on iPad, no lags. Actually, I take that back. Subway Surfers, but it's Subway Surfers' problem to optimize their game. Like, if the developer optimizes their game correctly, you'll see no lags. Like with this game, I never encountered any lags. With Subway Surfers, when it's loading new chunks, you'll get lags. With your usual games, Monument Valley, when it's generating some new scenery, you'll get lags. So, yeah. Those are based on the app itself. The thing about the iPad, though, if you never use an iPad, it's literally just the iPhone with a bigger screen. So the thing that is different is normally if you wanted to use the calculator and like have a math exercise on your screen at the same time, you'll have to like cycle through. You'll have it on Safari or something. Not Safari. Brave. I'm watching Blue Planet. Blue Planet's amazing. No, it's called Our Planet. Our Planet? No, same. Um, you'll get some math on one screen, and then on the iPad you could do this. You can have your calculator on one screen and then math on the other screen. But on your iPhone, you would literally have to do this. You would have math, and you would cycle back and forth between math and the calculator. So that's your one little speed boost. And of course, iPad, if you draw, get an iPad. Because you could get a drawing tablet, but the iPad is like multi-use. You can use it for more than just drawing. But the only real thing that you could use the iPad for other than drawing that takes advantage of the iPad's big display, is, for example, watching movies or stuff on it. But like, to be honest, if you have like a big monitor or something, like just a TV screen or something, like you could put it on the TV and it's probably better than the iPad. So like, I don't really use the iPad for watching media and all that. About these are the main productivity stuff I have. I actually make most of my videos using the iPad. I'll just show you right now what I use. I make all my thumbnails in Canva. So the thing about Canva is that it's basically a website, and it's not optimized very well, and it makes individual network requests for each little thing, and it's not multi-threaded, which means that it will first, like, let's say, get the YouTube thumbnail button from their server, and then get the sheet button from their server. It'll get all of these buttons one at a time, which is very slowly, and then very slow. And you'll notice that if you're doing this on like a desktop or something, on like your MacBook, on like a Windows PC or something, the network's probably gonna be faster. So Canva's gonna run smoothly. But on here, the iPad doesn't have as powerful as a modem. And you'll notice that. Like, for example, let's see. It's making a new one. And it's taking about, while it's loading very, very slowly. On the desktop, it would probably load in very slowly, about 3 seconds. But here, it's like, you see, it's kind of a long process. So that's the network disadvantage of the iPad. I don't think I'm giving it a fair job. If we're comparing it to a phone, yes, it's faster than the phone. But like, the thing is, what are you going to use a phone for? Like, we're not going to use a phone to edit thumbnails in Canva. No. That job is not reserved for the phone. If you do that on your phone, like, props to you. You do a very good, you have hard work doing that. But yeah. Also, all of these apps run perfectly fine on the iPad. You got Bitwarden, all that. And these are some apps that I use pretty often. Lightroom works great on the iPad. I think Lightroom is one that's like almost as fast on the iPad as on the computer. Of course, I'm not an expert, so I won't show that. Of course, there's also Fresco, which I'm not an artist, but as you can see, I'm not an artist, but I do use it for some things, and it runs smoothly. There's absolutely no lag. It's amazing. It's also free. Shout out Adobe for once. And CapCut. Okay, if you want a video edit on iPad, you got two main options. You can either download CapCut, which is freemium. It's owned by TikTok. Or you can choose DaVinci Resolve, which is a professional video editing software aimed towards professionals, and it's very good in color grading. But this is the iPad version, which, if you don't know, if you were to use this software on a computer, the Pro version, which is the version that will give you all the features, costs $300. And this version for the iPad, if you want to use it, you don't just sign into an account and just get your version of the software. No. You need to pay an extra $80. You just need to pay a standalone $80 for the iPad version. And in my opinion, if you're very quick on an iPad, this could be very good for you. I mean, you have all your professional video editing software on it. You got Fusion, not software, color grading tools on it. You got Fusion, which is compositing. And it's so good. You can carry the iPad around in like a tiny bag and like edit wherever you want. But I'm not paying $80, so I've got CapCut. And the thing about CapCut on iPad is that it's about the same as on phone, where you can only have one video track and one audio track, which is not great. So your third option for editing video, by the way, is Final Cut Pro, which I'll just show you on iPad is a subscription. I forgot how much it is, but I remember Final Cut Pro is probably the same as Adobe. I actually don't know. You guys have to check it out, or I'll just put a video right here. It's probably the same as Adobe, about the same. And of course, on iPad, you can use all of your phone's apps. You can have, like, for example, here I got Spotify. I got the clock. Like, you got all of your iPhone features, but also you got drawing apps. What am I talking about at this point? Let's just get to something better. Apple ecosystem features. Yes, if you have a Mac, you can use the iPad as an extended display. All new iPads have this. Even I have an iPad mini that's like 4 years old, and that iPad mini can still be an extended display. It's tiny. I wouldn't really recommend it. But if you have like a large 11-inch, 13-inch iPad, like, perfectly good extended display in my opinion. And also, the iPad can... Okay, I don't like this though. The iPad has this feature where it can only have one audio source going at the same time. So let's say I'll play Spotify. So, yep, Spotify's playing. And as you can see, Spotify's playing in the background. But if I go into voice memos and I just start playing, as you can see, the Spotify sound has just stopped. So I don't like that. It's the same on iPad as on phone. If you get an iPad, you'll find that a lot of features that are kind of annoying on the phone are also exactly the same on the iPad. Except for this multitasking thing, you can have two windows. And on iPad, you'll find that a lot of apps can be organized vertically and horizontally. On iPhone, a lot of app developers, to keep their UI user interface consistent and fresh, they'll restrict their apps to being vertical only, which if you don't do app development, you might be like, why do they do that? It just seems like just enable horizontal, but horizontal you'll find on very rectangular displays where both the two sides aren't equal. It's very hard to have good looking UI, and it's very tedious to make UI that shifts into place both vertically and horizontally. So that's the thing you'll find that's different on iPad. And oh yeah, so files on iPad. Files on iPad. I have to blur this out, don't I? Files on iPad are atrocious. I can't think of a way to demonstrate it right now, but it's so slow. If you have a Windows computer or something, a Mac or something, like just a desktop computer or laptop, just use that to organize your files. Import your files, airdrop it to your computers, send it via Gmail, anything, and then organize on your computer. Please don't do it on the iPad. Trauma. I had to organize I try to organize a lot of stuff in the folders. I quit halfway through and just did it on my Mac. It's so convenient. It's so inconvenient on the iPad. And, oh yeah, for developers, it should be obvious, but if you develop iOS apps and let's say you want to just like test it, yes, you can test it on the iPad. There's an option, developer. As you can see, a lot of developer features pre-made for you. On the iPad, you can just connect your computer to your iPad via wire or wirelessly. Wirelessly, in my opinion, way too slow. It takes like 10 minutes to upload and download the app from computer to iPad. So please use a USB-C cable to connect them both. And hang detection is pretty good, in my opinion. I'm just rambling at this point. What features does the iPad have? I already covered gaming, didn't I? By the way, gaming, if you just play like Plants vs. Zombies or something, some like chill, casual games, like it'll run totally fine. Even if you play like Asphalt Legends Unite, like that game runs very smoothly on an iPad, and that game is pretty high graphics, for mobile. And I have an iPhone 15. And the Asphalt Legends Unite sometimes lags real hard on that device, but on the iPad, doesn't really lag too much, which is good. Okay, to sum it up, for your hardware, please don't think the M3 of like something as a beast, an absolute beast for everything. You won't see any lag. No, you will see lag. And of course, since it's the M series chips, it'll be good for web browsing. Let's load up a website. Oh, come on. Every time I say it's something's like good at something. Okay, let's just load up Wikipedia. Let's just load up Cloudflare, which is a more intensive website, and you can see fast as hell. Let's load up Voodoo's website. Not Voodoo on Wikipedia. Voodoo Games. Voodoo is the company that makes Hole.io and all those other terrible games, but their website is I use it as a stress test. It's quite graphically intensive, as you can see. It's quite complicated. And as you can see, extremely smooth, extremely smooth. And the iPad also has a good memory management system, so that you never notice that the iPad's running like slowly or anything. The iPad will always clear out a lot of apps. As soon as I stop using, let's see, Brave, it'll just immediately clear out all of the memory allocated to Brave. So let's just go into a few apps, tap some buttons, and go back into Brave. Huh. Okay, it didn't keep the memory of that tab, but it kept the memory of Wikipedia. That's strange. So that's about it for this iPad review. Oh yeah. Important. Something very important. The iPad doesn't have Face ID. Face ID, in my opinion, is superior to Touch ID. Mainly, it's for me. I have a skin problem, where my skin on my fingers literally keeps peeling off. It's crazy. It keeps peeling off, and every 3 days, I have to change my Touch ID if I want it to work. Since after the skin's off, of course, your finger's not the same as before, right? So I would much prefer Face ID. My face doesn't peel off every 3 days. That's just a personal thing. And yeah. Oh yeah. One last thing. I'm sorry I keep saying this, but one last thing. These speakers are like for a $800 device. I have a 13-inch iPad Air. For an $800 device, these speakers are terrible. They're quite loud and they're quite clear. Wait, did I just say loud? They're not loud. They could be much, much louder. I have an M3 iPad Pro that my friend used to use. Not an M3. What am I talking about? Just an M1 iPad. That speaker is like 1.5 times louder than the new iPad Air, which is Apple just keeps getting away with stuff like this. And also, the speakers have, of course, I don't really care that it doesn't have any bass, because the music that I listen to doesn't really have any bass. I like classical, I like jazz, a lot of vintage jazz, Duke Ellington, and that doesn't really have a lot of bass, so I can live with that. But if you listen to like hip hop and stuff, like the kick's just not going to be hitting as hard as it should. But you have headphones and AirPods for that sort of stuff. And lastly, my gripe is that if you use the ecosystem, which is very few people have the full ecosystem, in my opinion, but if you have the full Apple ecosystem with an Apple Watch, an iPhone, and an iPad, these three devices, you'll notice that the iPhone and the watch work perfectly together. I mean, like, everything from the iPhone, like media, shows up on the watch. And if you use Spotify on the watch, it'll show on the phone. And if you start a workout on the watch, it'll show on the phone. But, like, the iPad is like an afterthought to this whole thing. Like, which I'm quite puzzled about, because iPad OS, if you didn't know, was originally a fork of iOS, which means it is the exact same code as iOS, but added a little bit, if that makes sense. It's a little bit of code extra than iOS. So, like, I don't know why they couldn't just, like, make the watch work the same way on the iPad as the iPhone. Like, on the watch, it's like funny sometimes. I got like a workout started and I want to check the workout on my iPad and it's not there, but on the phone it's there. Like, it's the Apple ecosystem. You pay like $2,000 for these few devices, and like they don't, some features just don't work well together. And I'm gonna make another video later, more concise than this one. This one is just unscripted, but just talking about how the different devices work together. I've got a Mac, I got a MacBook, I got an iPad, I got a phone, I got a watch. That's my ecosystem. And in my opinion, the ecosystem is actually quite nice. Why? Because it's like the only ecosystem. If you want Google's ecosystem, well, the watch isn't very reliable, first of all. So that's your first downside. And the tablets have no apps made for them. And that's the second downside. Those are the main downsides, in my opinion. And also, Google doesn't make computers that like, but Google makes Chromebooks, but in my experience, I don't really see Chromebooks being used, and Chromebooks are only for like, they're optimized for the web and that sort of stuff. They're not made for like doing, let's say, professional video editing or like Blender work or whatever. So, yeah, Apple's basically your only ecosystem that you can choose. So, I mean, I'm not gonna complain too much if it's the only one in America. So, yeah, that's about it. This video is a bit long. No, it's 3 a.m. Like, I'm talking actually quite loud. My neighbors are probably gonna kill me. Alright, guys, see you in the next one, and hopefully you enjoy this one.